So let's talk about Cap's second solo outing, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And this one, to me, is one of the best Marvel movies in the whole cinematic universe and just Marvel movies in general. Like, this is one of the best. And a lot of people give this movie so much praise. Rewatching it every single time I've seen it, I feel like it stays just as great as it always has been. For me personally, I think that this is one of those movies that I love the fact that this is a movie where it is a superhero movie, but it is set in such a gritty tone and in such a way that it is still a part of this universe. It's still a part of this universe where there are gods and magic, but in this movie it's so constrained and it's such a gritty, more real life feeling movie, and I really think that this is Marvel's version of The Dark Knight, in which the Dark Knight film was basically gritty in real life too, where it's a superhero movie, but it doesn't have to abide by being, and this isn't an insult to any other superhero movie, but it's not over the top or silly. And both of these movies, I think, do a great job of being so gritty and planted in real life while being in a world full of stuff that is not real. I think that's a really cool accomplishment. I think that's really cool. This movie doesn't have to take that route, even though I do love almost all the other Marvel movies, but I think this does such a fantastic job of being so realistic and so gritty, and the way that the film is presented and the way that these characters are presented is great. I love how Steve Rogers in this movie, after Captain America: The First Avenger and the Avengers, Captain America now, on learning what it was like in the 40s and then Frozen, and now after Avengers, after fighting and knowing who Nick Fury is, he's questioning Nick Fury more, like he did in the first Avengers, and he's questioning him and wondering why being so secretive is not the way that he was trained and the way he was told in war. Like, the way that Nick Fury works is different than how it worked for him in the 40s. And the way that you see both of their, like, you don't really see Nick Fury's reason as much, but like you see Cap's real reason why he doesn't understand and he doesn't get how the world has changed and how it is different, in which Nick Fury is always hiding something. He's never telling the complete truth. And doing that causes a argument between them both in both of these movies, in Avengers 1 and this one, in which they both, you just look at the idea of Nick Fury being the secretive man while Steve Rogers wants to know the whole deal, but as he's not telling him this, it gets interesting, because this character wants to be like how it was in the 40s. He wants this to be a world where you understand each other more, but as the world has gone on, it's harder to do that. And I think that it's really interpreted great here with those two characters. I really think that's awesome. And I love the idea of how this movie, like, we had Hydra in the first Captain America in the 40s, and then in this one, present day, you would have thought Hydra was gone. But I really like that twist that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra are one, and how they are mixed together, and they are literally, Hydra has been worming its way throughout since its inception. I think that's really cool that in the current day you've got Hydra. And it's really, like, explored in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but in this movie specifically, in Avengers of Age of Ultron, it has Hydra stuff, and I think it's cool just showing how they do evolve into this current time, and you see using the current technology and how they are going to, they could secretly wipe out millions of people, and I think that that's really cool, just showing how that worked and how this society has been thriving ever since its inception for over 70 years. I think that's really cool. I think that's a cool idea and a cool twist that I didn't expect coming in this movie. I thought it was really cool. And I thought that, like I said, the characters are great. Like I said, Captain America, Steve Rogers is great. Nick Fury's great. Natasha Romanoff is really good in this movie. I think that she has a cool connection with Steve Rogers in this movie. they have a relationship that's not a romantic relationship, which I liked. I liked that it was just them being they're on a mission together, but since Steve is kind of questioning everybody, I like the idea of him and her together and learning a little more about her and learning they gain like this trust. And there's a scene in this movie which I won't spoil because I haven't talked about Civil War. I'll say it in Civil War. But there's a scene in this movie where they say this line that actually makes effect in Captain America Civil War. And I thought that was really cool that these characters through this movie, through all the stuff that happens to them together, since they're together most of the movie, they have a big moment in Civil War, like, and it's really cool how they connect those two between the movies. And it's not like a love connection, it's just a connection between, like, what they're thinking about. And I think that it's a really cool way to keep giving these characters arcs and giving them connections to each movie because they really work in a cool way. And I just thought that they had a good relationship and companionship in this movie. It wasn't a romantic thing. It was just they were stuck together, but they learned more about each other while they became more friends. And I thought that was a really just cool reasoning to put her in it. Even though she was good in Iron Man 2, it's like she was kind of just in it because of the Avengers stuff was going to happen, which I'm fine with because it wouldn't have made as big an impact in the Avengers if Black Widow was just introduced there. So I liked having her in this more in terms of how the story weaves her in. I thought she was more effectively put in this movie than Iron Man 2. And I just thought like the performances are all great too. They're all the typical more performances of a Marvel movie, but they're all really good. And Steve Rogers, again, like I keep bringing him up, but I like how whenever he go at the beginning of the movie, he goes to this museum where it has different things from the World War II, and it shows all these memorials and things about Cap and all of his friends and Bucky Barnes, and I love the idea of showing all this footage of them in the 40s, and then it cuts later to him and Peggy, who's still alive, which was a cool addition. I like that she's still alive now. Um, and you realize that she married because whenever Steve died, and I like that idea that whenever Steve comes back as himself still, he gets to see Peggy again. And this scene is really, really heartbreaking and hard to watch in a good way because the performances are really, really good in this. Haley Atwell, who I don't know if it's like, I guess it's just makeup, but she looks really good because she's supposed to be, I don't know how old, at least 80 or 90, and she she has this whole conversation with Steve Rogers about how he came back, and then she forgets it and says the same thing again and starts crying and saying that, like, just saying how he's alive and how he made it through. And it's heartbreaking to watch, and it's really, really effective, and it's one of the best scenes, I think, in any of the Marvel movies. It really genuinely works so strongly with these two characters because of the connection they had in the first movie. And him being gone for 70 years, and she's still alive, and she sees him again, but she's at her dying end. Like, she doesn't die in this movie, but she's close to death. Like, she starts forgetting everything, and she's just, you could tell, like, it's the end of her life. And I like that idea of showing her again, and it's really heartbreaking with these two and their connection. I really think that it works so strongly. I really thought that they were great in this movie, and she wasn't even in it much, just like a couple scenes, but she was really fantastic. And I liked all the new characters. I liked Robert Redford's character. I thought he was a cool, like, Hydra upper person, like he's the one who was kind of in charge. I think that's really cool because Robert Redford, I thought, well, not really intimidating to me. Like, he had a good performance for the character. I liked him as this character. And I love the idea that we get back Bucky Barnes, but like Captain America, or Steve Rogers, he has been frozen too. And has become the same like Steve has, but he's the opposite of what Steve is, where he is the Winter Soldier, an assassin that has been over 50 years has been assassinating people. And I think that that's really a cool way of, even though you can see immediately like the twist coming that it's him, but they do such a great accomplishment in just how, even though you know it's going to happen, like it works so well showing whenever Steve figures it out, whenever he realizes that Bucky is this assassin that is kind of one of the villains in the movie, it is really effective and really works too. I love the ending where they have the ending fight on the exploding, I think helicarrier, where they literally like Steve recites a line while getting all beaten up and pulverized by Bucky, who is in a trance and is not himself. And again, just the emotions play really strong here, where Bucky is punching him like to death almost, and then Steve says, "I'm here till the end with you." Like when they showed a scene before that where it showed small Steve Rogers and Bucky in the 1940s, and it's a cool callback to that scene in this movie, and then at the end it makes it really effective and really earned. It really worked really well, and I love the idea how they both fall into the water, and then Bucky saves him and then leaves because of him being so conflicted and what he doesn't know what is right anymore. Like he doesn't understand because he's been so brainwashed to become this assassin for so long. He doesn't understand what's going on, and it works really well because of just showing this film and the last Captain America with them and their friendship. It really is strong, and it makes it so much more heartbreaking whenever it actually happens, showing their fight at the end. And it really just works really well with these characters because they're really, really great. And I really thought that Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter is really good too. I liked how we get, like, I think that she is related to Peggy Carter, like her granddaughter. I think that's what it was. I don't remember if this movie specifically said it or if they said it in the comics, but I liked her a lot. I thought she was a cool, not replacement for Peggy, because Peggy's in this movie and is in other movies after this, but in flashbacks, of course. But I think that Sharon is really, really awesome in this movie. She is badass, just like Peggy Carter was. And she really, like, just, she has a great personality to her, and a great, like Peggy Carter did. She had a great personality and is such a badass, and just what she is, like, she's just really, really cool. I think that it's just that's the word for her. She's just really a cool character. And I just thought that the story, like the movie, is a political thriller for the most part, and I think that it works really well and really interestingly in this universe where, like I said, every other movie has something to do with otherworldly things, and it's not, or for the most part, not every movie does, but most of them do, where they have things out of this world like magic or aliens, but in this one it's so grounded and tries to be so in this box, but in a great way. Like it tries to be so self-contained, but really works well. And they even, like I said, they even mention events from the other movies where they refer to things like magic and stuff. But I think it's so cool how this movie on its own can be interpreted as just a standalone, dark, gritty Marvel movie, and I think it works really well. And I think in the greater span of the universe, like, it really is fantastic. And it is still truly one of Marvel's best. The characters are fantastic. The story is fantastic. The action is fantastic. It's just a different genre for this franchise. And like the first Captain America, which, when it came out, was the first film not to be in present time in 1940s World War II. And then in this one, it's present time, but now a political thriller. And I love how they keep doing this and changing it up and making it fresh, but just in the right amount where it works as a Marvel movie, but as a really different one, but an effective one, and truly one of the best. So many people love this movie. I'm no exception to it. I love this movie too. Thanks guys so much for watching. Avengers Age of Ultron, or no, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is next. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.